It is another wonderful time on television, and many thanks for joining us the way you always do every Monday at about this time. The program is African Discourse. My name is Evan Sunokugie. On this program, we look at issues on the continent of Africa, and of course, things that you can do, or things that we can do as Africans, so that we can liberate ourselves. All right, so today what we're going to be looking at is the continuous interest, if you like now, or influence of Russia on the continent of Africa. And of course, some people will say it's all about resources, it's all about natural resources. And of course, some people will say that the Russian government, through the Wagner force, the Wagner force now, that's the name now, the Wagner, through the Wagner force is trying to dominate the whole world. As we speak, we understand that the Wagner force has, laid siege, laid dominance on some major African countries. What is the major interest of Russia in Africa? And of course, how best can we free as a continent from the Russian power is a very big question. Well, to look at all this with us this afternoon, we are so privileged to have Bashir Kadiri, a former permanent secretary with the Ministry of Agric, Edo State, and of course, a public affairs analyst. So you're welcome to this program, African Discourse.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nohogi. My pleasure being here.
All right, so we're also expecting Honorable Fred Uigwe, politician and a public affairs analyst. We extended our invitation to him. So we're expecting when he comes, we'll just let him be on the program so that he can join us on the show. All right, so sir, we are looking at Russia as a country now, one country that has perhaps remain an enemy to, a whole lot of other countries. And it is not the first time that we are finding that Russia is making a incursion into the continent of Africa. But the big question that we keep on asking is, what is exactly the interest? Or what are the concerns? What is Russia looking for in Africa? Now, as we speak now through the Wagner group, that's a private security agency in Russia. We understand that the Wagner group now, of course, when we say Wagner, we're also talking about Russia, because there's no way we can have the Wagner group, the Wagner Organization, without the Russian government. So as we speak, the Wagner group is in Central African Republic, and of course it is also in Libya, it is in Mali, it is in Sudan, it is in Mozambique, and is in Burkina Faso, is also in Chad. Now, what this Wagner group has been doing is to try to provide assistance, mercenary support, you may want to say, to warring faction. They always try to come in through the pretense of trying to settle issues there. And before it is known, they now support a particular group, and they start to ask for some form of settlement, some form of concession. That's the way it has been. Now, please, sir, what is, from your point of view, what do you think is the major interest that Russia has in Africa as a continent?
Well, let me give you this, Nohogi, by way of a brief, what we call brief antecedents of the global politics. It's about global politics. Africa is the centerpiece of their contestation. Not just Russia, even the West. Everybody wants to take Africa as its home base. Don't forget that the world is divided in political discourse, the West and the East. And the East is what? In Russia. Oh. And they have been there. They have a socialist content, while you have the West symbolized by America, with of course the capitalist content. These are basic driving force. The economic description is capitalist and socialist. The political discussion is Democrat, a Republican, and of course socialist. These are the two definitions. Oh. The other ones are just neither here nor there. What was the offense of Saddam Hussein? What was the offense of Gaddafi? Because all of these are the stories we need to know. Africa needs to be emancipated from all of this, the shackles of these powers in reference. They have done so much harm to Africa, whether the West or the East. For me, as far as I'm concerned, it's a contestation of who is superior. And to take over Africa makes you more superior. Africa has become the guinea pig, become the centerpiece of punching. People come to harvest and never invest here. All they do is to see how Africa will remain subservient and subjugated to their powers. The entire, I'm just giving you this as a clear picture. That is the contestation. The contestation is Africa. If I take off Africa, I become the superpower. So what makes you super is how much Africa you take. Of course, you can't contest the fact that the entire global practice depends on these two blocks. Historically, it has been like that. The stories of Libya are clear. The West wasn't happy with Libya. Meanwhile, Libya had a touch with the Russians, the East. So where the West is not having comfort, Russia takes over. When Russia has taken over, West are not comfortable. That's the issue. Even the trouble of Ukraine. The trouble of Ukraine is the fact that there's a fear that NATO wants to take over. And that is exactly the anger of the Russian president, Putin. That how can you want to have the West take a place that is close to me as my jugular vein? So I must fight to die. They must not come here. I must take back Ukraine and annex Ukraine. That's a quarrel. Not because Ukraine particularly was an enemy, but because Ukraine they have just suspected that Ukraine has agreed to join NATO. And that was the offense. And it says, how can a man in my fence want to join my enemy? Unquote. So it will not happen. So you want to colonize that place. What was the quarrel in Iraq and Iran? What was the quarrel? These are basic things. When the Kuwaitians have their issues, the next thing, Iraq said, Kuwait used to be part of us. We can't do that. We must take them back. That was the quarrel. And that was what brought the Iraq-Iran war.
Okay. Now, if you look at the situation, one may say that Russia has been making incursions, into our political space as a continent in Africa. But let us look at some African countries that maybe they just wholeheartedly they are inviting Russia in. Take, for example, in South Africa. Little wonder, why would they want to do such a thing? Why is South Africa, why have they been renouncing the Russian government?
Let me tell you this. The moment any country in the continent of Africa feels unsafe in the hands of the West, the next place it's going to is to look for shelter in the world of the Russians. That's the truth. Once they feel unsafe in the hands of the West, they feel that they cannot do anything, they want to do something, they have to get Russia to do it because, of course, don't forget that we have two world powers. The
West and the East.
And the East.
Yeah.
So whether you like it or not, if a man feels unsafe, that this man is going to harass me because he's stronger than me, he runs to where he thinks he will find safety. And the other one believes that anybody that runs to them, they will take it so they can have more people on their side and less on the other side. Don't forget that the West have long ago kept us in perpetual servitude. All along. There's no one day they wake up without thinking of Africa. Okay, Africa is not good. Leave Africa to grow. No. Leave Africans to be their own. No. You keep demonizing Africans. And every time you talk, the black man is wicked. The black man is bad. The black man is this. I mean, well, leave black men alone. You won't leave them alone. If your economy has to grow with that, you grow your economy. No. They come here, they make sure that we are deceived to believe what is not true. Our natural resources are taken over by them. Just imagine for once, for how many years now we've been having petroleum in this country, crude? Have we been able to survive our own refineries? Have we? And nobody asks a question. What is the undercurrent? Yes, there are conspirators among us, but what is the undercurrent? These are the issues. And the undercurrent is that the day the Nigerian or the African people come out and stand, then all of them are in trouble. Because their source of raw material is from Africa. How will I allow it to go? No, I must make sure that I continue. That's why you keep see their hands in a leadership tussle. Now, what's the business of the West and themselves in Nigerian politics? Where just imagine that for one, the last election, people are going to UK to go and have a meeting in Nigeria election. Does it make any sense to you? How many times do the UK people come here, American people come here to come and have their elections, discuss elections? How many times? Have you ever heard it before? From them, the Labour Party and all of them, have you ever heard that they came to Nigeria or to Africa to come and sit down and say they're discussing their country's politics in that country? Have you ever heard? No, let's talk about it. You have sense of history too. Now, these are the issues. So what does that suggest to you? And of course, we are talking about that now. Let's talk about our oil, like I mentioned earlier today, which of course is the base of our economy. At the time, Nigerians were saying, okay, let us have our refineries. Do you know why it's not working? Do anybody ask why it's not working? Yes, there are internal conspirators. I have no doubt about that at all. Have you ever asked yourself, why is it that the only oil companies here that are big players are from the West?
The ExxonMobil and coal.
Mobil oil is West.
The Texaco.
Chevron is West. Total has a link with the French people. They don't have a connect. Does he ever ask, you have to ask the question, why? Meanwhile, the African people are not good. You keep coming here to exploit them. Imagine that the oil we're talking about now, I'm not sure any government functionary will tell you in all sense of the word that he knows how much oil we have in our reserve, except what we are told by these people. Just imagine that they take the oil at their cost. They tell you how much they want to buy from you. When they finish producing, they bring it back to you and tell you how much they want to sell to you. Does it not make some sense to you?
And of course, all other things that go with oil. So many
derivatives. Yeah. So many derivatives. From the issue of, you talk about diesel, talk about kerosene, all the derivatives.
Quota and
even if you have a petrochemical base, those synthetic products that are the derivatives, all of them. And they detect exactly what they will pay, and they'll detect how much we will pay. We have no say in whatever. So whatever they do is right.
Okay.
So let me anchor this.
Yeah.
Democracy they are talking about today. They say democracy is the best form of government. Okay, beautiful. People decide who live. Beautiful. Do you know that when the Angolans had their elections, that brought what they call him now Dos Santos as against Savimbi? The same Americans who said the election was the best, was good for the people, also went ahead with financing Savimbi against Dos Santos. In Nigeria here, the stories of Murtala Muhammad's death were also fingered. It was also fingered. And what was the story? The story that was fingered, what we heard, was that discussions about the man's death was discussed in UK. And that was the story. And what now happened? The man was killed. And when we track it, people say, okay, let us look at the historical trend. What was Murtala Muhammad's position? And in one of the occasions we had, he mentioned that the West should leave Africans alone. That Africa has come of age. Let Africa dictate its own pace and develop it at its own pace. And that have we ever come to ask you question on how you manage your own country? Why do you have always come to us and you're always deciding what is the problem? Go to your own, let us do our own. Every country have a development strategy. Development of every country is not the same. It's like two children born the same day. They may not crawl the same time and walk the same time.
Yeah.
But once there's an interference, the thought pattern changes. And the interference that have happened to us is that they have now made us neither black nor white. What we are now, I don't even know what Africans are.
Now, that leads us to what I'll ask our next question now. Now, despite our colonization now from the West, the Britain, the US and all that, you have various nations in Africa colonized by the Western nations. Now,
yes.
Little wonder, what is it about the African leaders that they keep on running to, the East, running to Russia? Take, for example, some few months ago, we saw some about 5 African leaders now, African presidents, as headed by Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, trying to under the guise of settling the crisis between Ukraine and Russia.
Yes.
Now, we got to know that they went for that meeting all because of the grain exportation that they get from Ukraine and Russia down to Africa. Now, what is it about African leaders that we cannot look inward? What is it about us?
Now, let me tell you this. You see, that is my challenge. And I will share with you this. The first is that Africans are undermined by external and internal conspiracy. And sometimes I ask myself, what is the magic that we cannot do our own here and develop us? If you read the works of Walter Rodney, how Europe developed Africa, even though sometimes I see that word as a lamentation concept, because for me, I don't believe that lamentation gives results. If we know that how they develop on the development, what have we done all along after that discovery?
Nothing, yeah.
That's one of my, what do you call it? I call it precedents of the discussion. And so, And he said that the West now always want to condemn Africans so we can continuously psychologically be subjugated, while they are also exploiting some Africans. And the reason for some of the problem of Africa is their incursion in their activities. But what the West did to us is that they did what we call psychological rejigging, what we call psychic rejigging. And everybody wants to look like the white man.
Through our colonization?
I'm going there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the principle of association, okay?
Like the French.
And the principle of assimilation.
Yeah.
Okay? Our own Kabasa were the word indirect rule. But the French people were even more of the enslavement. Like you must think French, talk French, and walk like French.
You must give up your culture.
You must talk
culture.
like French, live like French,
Yeah.
wear like French.
Yeah.
What happened when Indians break away? Indians break away with one of their leaders, I can't remember his name now, who said, from today onward, India must think Indian, talk Indian, drive Indian, and live Indian, and eat Indian. The same breakaway was what the Japanese did when they closed their doors to the world and said, everything here, we are all here, if we are good, like, let us die. After the Second World War. And they closed their doors for 10 years. No one was coming in. They sat down and developed their country. Today, Japan is one of the high flyers. There's hardly a home in the world you don't have Japanese product. There's hardly. Just mention one home, either in wristwatch, or in calculator, or in car, or in TV. Just tell me one particular home in this country that you don't have Japanese products. You hardly can find one. And that was what they did when they closed their doors. When those were now open, it was like a bank. Look at China. They were all in the canvas. Today, they're there. Call it Chinese tiger. African can do same.
All right, so what you're saying is that you said there seems to be a kind of a gang-up, external and internal gang-up against Africa.
Yeah, you see, the truth is that some people are making comfortable money on where we are now. So that our growth, our busting, moving this barricade, if you call it barricade of growth, will put them at subservient level. Let me give you an example. If somebody have an oil well, I expect that after 10 years, you're able to build a refinery or start working on one. Is it not true? From the exploration of that oil, a lot of them had oil well, the big boys. Have you had one of them doing refinery one day? One of them. If the commission involved in your oil, is your oil, because they give you commission.
Yeah, but we have one recently that built, though it's yet operational.
He was not among the big flyers in the oil well. That's the truth of the matter, yes. He was only a fronter. The big players, because I'm on TV program, I be careful not to mention people's name. The big players, they know themselves. Who have oil well, they have oil blocks. What happened here is that when you come to take, and you are taking in dollars, and you are giving this guy in naira, and the guy feels that you have done so well for him. Somebody getting 100 million naira, for instance, in one pool. And the person who gave you that money is making about 60 billion of dollars. And the man with 100 million or 200 million naira will be celebrating that he has made money. And so they keep you at that perpetual servitude. Make you feel that you cannot go beyond this. We are the one to make you comfortable. And until we break that thing from our psyche, and we jump away from the story of I want to be like the white man. I want to be like a black man of successful story. A classical. The blacks have what it takes to go there. But we are currently psychologically trampled. And the day we break that trample to believe that we also have a standard. Because just imagine, for instance, you are here now. The next thing somebody is comparing you and looking at it, white man is a standard bearer. And that's the problem. Who says that white man is a standard bearer? God created man equal. He didn't create white and black to be different. He has a reason for creating black, he has a reason for creating white. But he didn't make anyone subservient. If you go to the same West, the guys doing high-flying works there, who are superstars, they are blacks. A lot of them are black men, both in medicine, in engineering, just mention them. You have them. So blacks are not inferior, but we are made to believe that we are inferior. So each time they talk to us, we think that we are inferior. Everybody wants to become like the white man and talk like a white man, behave like a white man, everything you do like a white man. Hey, Jack, what are we talking about? How do you grow when your mindset is already concluding that somebody is higher than you? So is the standard bearer.
Yeah.
So my take is this: is that first, Africans must start to rejig their psyche. We must change our psyche. The mentality of white is superior to black, we should throw it away. If you read the works of Onaivi Suleiman, this may be sensibility, but we're talking about a religious leader who says an African. I don't mention religion now because of religious situation.
Yeah.
And the man said that that religious prophet was an African. Because he was talking from the perspective of, if you are saying that Africans are not, but this one you are following now, is an African. Because by his genealogy, by where he was born, he's African.
It's Africa.
So he's an African. So he called the religious leader's name and said he was an African. So the moment we begin to now think out of the box, that we have capacity to do what we are doing, we're not feeling that somebody is coming to teach us what to do. Let me tell you, every continent has its own technology. What happened to us? We abandoned our own to the white man's own.
Our total way of life.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we abandoned our own to the white man's own. Today, we now want to talk like white man, live like white man, stand like white man, everything about us is like white man. If it's not white man, then it's not right. And by the way, who says that that criminals are just blacks? The level of crime committed in the West is frightening.
Yeah.
Somebody a small boy wake up and carry gun. Shooting in the street, shooting in school. Carry gun from the house, take to school. And you heard the story? A young man was in the hotel, just opened his hotel window and carry gun and start shooting.
Okay, now, but before we go for our break now, let us look at some of the issues that we have on the continent of Africa. Now, we talked about the 5 African leaders now going to Moscow recently to try to intervene between the war, in the war between Russia and Ukraine. Now, what our major problem here in Africa seems to bother on security. Now, these 5 leaders went because of grain. Now, we can plant this grain here, but because of the insecurity issues back in Africa and all that, we really cannot go further agriculturally. Now, how do we do that? I mean, that is not, it's just within us, internal problems now.
I'll tell you this. Every continent has an internal problem. No continent is free. They have an internal problem. It is the level of our psychic emancipation that will give us self-confidence to drive our process. I tell you this, security is not a magic. It's not a magic. Look at what happened in Iraq. When America had war with Iraq, you saw what happened. The story was that in 1 month, Iraq is leveled. If you follow the story very well at that time, they couldn't. They underrated Iraq. That Iraq can be overrun by just 1 day. And what they saw was a shocker. Because what Iraq did, when Iraq had the Iran war many years ago,
they had to buckle up.
The supply they got, they sat down with both supplies and developed them even bigger than what it was.
Yeah.
So when they were assessing them, they said, "This people, what they have is what we gave them." You know what they gave them, the people have done it bigger than that. And that was the shocker. Africa has potentials. All we need to do is to rejig our psyche. We have a psychic distortion, psychic problem. That's the problem. The day our psyche is rejigged, we will know that the capacity is here. And what's the report? When you keep lamenting, you never get results. Africans lament too much. We never sit down to think through something. We lament. Oh, it's not possible. I said John comes. I said Peter comes. Is Peter a spirit? How did Peter do it? If we are let me tell you, we are going to a point. You see, when you get to a point, you now get to the wall.
A point of no return.
Yeah, you will not change.
Yeah.
Look at what happened. Why did what they call them now changed?
Rwanda.
Why Rwanda changed? They got to the wall and said, "Gentlemen, hey, my brother, wait a minute. You're my brother. We can't quarrel again. Let's talk. Is it not true?
Well, of course, that was after so many issues.
No,
now.
no. Every continent have its own line of development. It's like everybody has its own development. The way you agree is not the way somebody agree. And that person that grew, if you tell you his own experience, you'll be wondering, this guy was strong. Are you get what I'm saying now? To be an overcomer means that there are challenges you are overcoming. Okay. Africans must agree that we have challenge, we want to overcome them. And we must overcome them by what we call internalizing our process, our approach. It must be our own local approach. We must develop our approach to solving our problems. Because when you pick somebody else's approach to solve your problem, you get to a point you get confused because the approach you pick is not your approach. Yeah. You are completely strange to the approach, and that's exactly what we are doing. We keep using foreign approach to manage our matters. When we now got to a point, we got stuck. Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the issue. Now you have the raw material, you have the human resource,
you have the expertise,
you have the land. Land chemistry is super.
Yeah.
The production is classical. What are you talking about?
Okay.
Now, if you have insurgency,
yeah,
what is the reason for the insurgency?
Okay, let's hold on now. We're going to go in on the short break now. If we can do that now, we'll quickly take a short pause. We've been talking about, the continuous influence of Russia in Africa. We started looking at the Wagner Organization, one tool that the Russian government has used all over the world. And of course, we saw some of the major countries that the Wagner has continued to lay their siege in Africa. We talked about Sudan. Presently, the Wagner is in Sudan, is also in Mali, is in Mozambique, is in Libya, is in Central African Republic, and is in Burkina Faso. Now, for the Burkina Faso, it's very, very disturbing. Now, when Burkina Faso had a change of government recently, whereby Chari came in, we saw some Burkina Faso nationals, actually waving the Russian flag. A little wonder why would they do that. I mean, a black man waving the Russian flag. Now, that is to tell you the extent at which the Russian influence has really come into Africa. So when we return, we're going to be looking at something different, because we understand that sometime in 2003, the U.S. government had to designate and of course said that the Wagner Organization is a criminal, is a significantly transformational but criminal organization. So despite this label that the U.S. government has given to the Wagner Organization, little wonder how come they've been able to make this progress in Africa. Countries that they are in Africa, they've been able to really hold siege in this country. So when we return, we're going to be looking at all that on the program African Discourse. You hold on. All right, thank you. One more time, the program is still African Discourse on independent television, looking at issues on the continent of Africa. And we are looking at the continent's influence of Russia in Africa. You may call it another colonization. The difference now is that while we had Britain, the French government colonizing individual nations during the colonization period, unlike what we have now. The Russian government, Russia as a nation, seems to be taking the whole of Africa. So it's more or less a wider colonization, you may want to say. And of course, it is not doing that alone. The Wagner Organization that was founded by a Russian businessman known as Yevgeny Prigozhin, was the one that founded the Wagner Organization. And of course, we also understand that is a prominent Kremlin limited private security military company in Russia. So it's more or less, it has been more or less a mercenary organization that the Russian government has used to suppress nations, to suppress African nations that they have made incursions into. And of course, once they come in and they succeed, they begin to, negotiate some concessions with you. And these concessions now are in terms of natural resources. I told you a while ago that the Wagner Organization is in major African countries, and those major African countries, as we speak now, there are crises. The most recent of it all is what is going on in Sudan, where we understand that the Wagner Organization is also there. As a matter of fact, the Wagner Organization is in support of Dagalo, General Dagalo. That's one of the warring faction and Sudan. And I also told you that sometime in 2003, that's this year now, that the U.S. government actually listed the Wagner Organization as a deadly criminal organization. So the very big question we ask is how come they have succeeded to make their progress in Africa? Back to you, Bashir Kadiri now. So that's the question. I mean, the U.S. government now has said that these people, this organization, they are not for good. They are not for, they really don't try to settle you. They just come in, take your resources and all that. So how come we continue to allow them to make this incursion and steal away our resources?
I think it's the same thing. You can ask the question, how come we're colonized by the West? Like I said, both of them, as far as I'm concerned, we don't need them in Africa.
The West and the East?
Yes, we don't need them in Africa. Africa should stand as a continent. And I give it to Murtala Muhammad. Africa has come of age. Let Africans sit back and plan their future and work in their future. Nobody will do it for you. Anybody doing it for you is he have his own interest. And that interest is a permanent interest. Called no friends, no enemy, permanent interest. It's international relations. When the Abacha was in this country and having the issues, what they call it, South Africa, we were told, when they were now being pushed, come and assist. He said, no, their interest is, they have interest, but not permanent friend, not permanent enemy. So Africans should sit down. We no longer need these people to come out because they've been there helping us. What have we achieved? Are we better? No, are we better? Is Africa better? Oh. With all the relationship we had with them, from the 50s, the 40s, up to today. If somebody is your student and is not doing well, something is wrong with you.
Now, but let us also look at some of the advantages that colonization may have brought to us as a continent now. Now, maybe without the Western colonization, maybe colonized by the Britain that most African countries had, where do you think African countries, the continents of Africa, where do you think we would have been?
I have a different opinion. My opinion is that would have been better.
Really?
Yes. Because these people define a developmental structure, not from our own heart. They define it the way it suits them. I've asked a question. Perpetual servitude. Are we really emancipated? Are we really emancipated in your own heart as a journalist? Taking your understanding of the history. Oh. Are we emancipated as Africans? Is Nigeria emancipated? Who controls your oil? No, tell me who controls your oil?
They.
That's the question. So are you emancipated? Your economy is in their hand. Your policy is in their hand. So what is the freedom? It's all paperwork and legal theories. In practice, where are? Are your continent free? They're all sharing, they're looking for how the country, so everybody wants to dominate the continent because that's where the thing is. I'll give you an example. Nigeria is one of the largest markets in Africa. Oh. Is it not true? It's true. What makes China strong? Their population. When they came out, they took their population as advantage in their production. If Nigeria today, we have about 200 million. Today, as I talk to you now, we have a deficit supply of what they call it, palm oil. Oh. Over 1 million plus deficit supply, which means that consumption
is below.
No, consumption is higher than supply.
Yeah.
That if you produce, that means you still have a market to sell. Oh. So also in several other commodities, you have deficit of supply. And then we have to wait for importation before we can do something. Those days, the companies that were here those days, they closed up, they ranked up. Some of them ran away. So that's why I told you just now, I said, we in Africa, we have a very powerful disposition to create. All we need to do is to break away from this mental enslavement. You know, what this man told us, W.E.B. Du Bois, You heard that name before, I guess you heard it before, W.E.B. Du Bois, was an activist. He said, you can shackle my legs, you can chain my hand, but you can't chain my mind. Well, Africa is going to come out. All these ones are just playing games. They are just going to come out. When Africa comes out, you'll be shocked. And I'm believing God to be soon.
Yeah,
because where we are going to now, where everywhere you go is wahala, this one. Look at Rwanda. You know how many years it took them? Tutsi and Hutus. They were always at each other's neck. I can't marry your sister, you can't marry my sister. Meanwhile, we are from the same place. And we see each other as demons. So what happened?
Now, when you say Africa is going to come out, the recent development now where we have military making incursions into our political space. We saw that in DRC, that's Democratic Republic of Congo. We also understand that in Chad now, we also have that situation there. Then one or two other nations, about 7 of them that we have military incursions now. So it appears that the military coming into the political space in Africa.
These incursions, they are part of development of every country.
For military to come in?
Yes, I will tell you why. That's what we call evolutionary process of evolution. You get to a point where you now discovered that even the things you are celebrating, that military came because you want to be there, you are not also safe. You know what I'm saying? You get to a point where you're no longer safe. It now become an issue. Let us talk, because nobody comes and give you free lunch.
Yeah, the military that come into power in Africa, do they really have good intentions? No, like what is going on in Sudan?
Military cannot be good intentions because military were not designed to be politicians. So they come with their military tendencies and all of that.
So why do you think
what we saw
why
here?
are they continuing making incursions
Are
now?
you aware?
If we're saying that Africa will be free.
Do you know how many years it took Nigeria to come out of military rule? Are you aware of that? No, are you aware of that?
Yeah, I know. It took us some years.
Beautiful. So for me, I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist. I never will lament, because I realize that every country has its own evolutionary trend. No two countries evolve the same way. You have your own, I have my own. It is the attempt to be like you that people have problems, they continue to remain where they are. Why not be yourself and develop yourself? It's like two people living together. The other one is you say want to be like him. In wanting to be like him is moving ahead. You want to be like him, are strong to be like him, he's moving ahead. And that is where the African, that's why I say just now, when we are going to a point where the Africans will now sit back. Because whether we like it or not, there must be an African development. I've asked the question all along, with all of this foreign incursion and all of that, for how many years now, where are we? Because the guys are happy that you are subservient. You keep remaining there, they be comfortable.
Now, can we ever have a situation whereby we can really have ourselves together as a wholesome continent now? Because we have a situation at hand now whereby a lot of Africans have left the shores of this continent, at the expense of their nationality. They've become citizens of other nations of the world.
Are you aware?
And from all indications, these people may not return.
Can I
maybe 2-3 generations.
See, can I inform my dear? If you ever meet some persons who went to overseas, some of them will tell you that it's not a rosy business.
But they don't want to come home.
No, tell you it's not a rosy business. Rosy business. You see, when everybody is running out of hope, running, where you are going to, don't forget somebody says hope. One day will remind you that you are a stranger. He will remind you you are a stranger. What was the problem with the blacks in America after they have joined to build America together? What was the problem? What brought the issue of Martin Luther King Jr.?
Oh.
What was the reason?
Racism.
Now, even recent times, the supremacist. So some of these things are part of what we call evolutionary process.
Oh.
When the thing happens like that, you get to a point, you now find out, you have exhausted this, I made a mistake for now, I thought it was the best for me. You'll be thinking of how do I get back home? Because leaders are not spirits. From among us, leaders came up, whether they are military or they are civilian.
Oh.
They're from among us. Is it not true? That's why I said just now, I said, if we have a psychic rejig, because we've been over the years distorted psychologically, we always believe, let me give an example. When the colonial masters were in power in Africa, it was believed that everybody wants to be like the colonial master. Nobody even think of what they are doing, but just think, I want to be like him. That's why the GROs are there. So when the colonial masters left, everybody went to occupy the GROA, and they didn't have an idea of what governance was all about. So the white man was happy that he left us at that point where we continue to come back to them to consult them. And until we break the connotation to say, let us do our African thing an African way. Because Africans also have a finesse. We have a finesse. We have moral content. We are not completely dumb. We are not satanic as we have been described. And we believe that we are saying, oh yes, and a black man, it can be better. I mean, a black man will say so to himself. Now, do you know that one scholar also mentioned it? In Germany, I think it's German, the German scholar, he's Hegel, who said that the black man lives in the dark continent with a dark mind. And one level of education, it cannot be illuminated. And I said, to hell with him. He should go and look back now. If he, of course, he's gone now, long ago. But he should sit back wherever he is now and look at his own place. Who are the flyers there? Half of them are black people coming with ideas that are classical. So I am believing that a time will come where the Africans will be emancipated.
Yeah.
And they will come back to now realize that they have a home to go and protect.
Okay, talking about emancipation now, where are we going to start from? Politically, agriculturally, economically, or where do you think we should start from?
Now, our first approach is to look at our economy. If our economy is taken over by us, we have done a great deal of work. Yes, I agree that we need some political readjustment. Yeah. But our economy, the day we can arrest our economy and take it back, hey Jack, we are good. We are good.
And how do we do that?
Now, fine. What other countries did, I use those of them who have been emancipated now, because the quarrel between China and Trump, I use the word Trump now, was that Chinese is doing too well.
Yeah, economically.
And then whatever.
Technologically.
Then the next thing he did was to increase the tariff of Chinese goods to America.
Yeah.
You heard the story.
Yeah.
So as to ensure that our goods, and people keep buying their goods. In America, the food they consume in America, more than half of them
made in China.
Are Chinese products.
Food, yeah.
So if China can do it, Nigeria can do it. That's my conviction. If anybody could break it, then we can break it. Now, what they did was to ensure that their local economy, using SMEs, small and medium enterprises, that's what they started with. Started putting together. Okay? And once you get that organized, they started working together, you begin to break this barrier of importation. I told you just now how Japan closed their doors to the world. 10 years, nothing was coming in, and they just sat down inside. And when they opened the doors, the world was shocked. And that was why even Bush, I think it's Senior Bush also, when he went to Japan, asking them to bring their currency up, to make it a convertible in the region.
And they said no.
And they said no. They said no. Your dollar can continue to be convertible, don't worry. Just let dollar come. He said no, your currency. He said no, leave it, no, be convertible. Because they understood the pressure that convertible status of a currency can create an economy. He said, no, you won't continue. Your yen is too low, your petroleum is high. He said, yes, don't worry. Today, Japan is in balance of payment, what they call it, surplus. And the balance of trade is in surplus. Whereas America and whatever it is, they are the balance of trade best they've ever been in equilibrium.
Yeah.
So my own take is that if we can take our economy, we can produce what we consume in Africa. We can make our own market, bring our products and sell them here. Without selling one out, we'll keep make our money. Our currency, yes, might come down, but locally it will have a part. Because currency have two powers, local and external power.
Yeah.
Look at Indonesia. In Indonesia, their currency is far lower than dollar. I remember at a time, about a few years ago, if you have $100, you're looking at about 1.3 million of the Indonesian currency. You see what I'm saying? But inside Indonesia, their currency will feed you. You small money you feed, and you do well. So for me, even in India, when your local economy is strong, you can feed yourself. That's the first principle.
Okay. So economically, we should look inward now.
We should look inward.
Let us look at the political
and make it a production economy.
Our politics is not even African in any way in the first place. The
That's
democracy that you and I
beautiful,
practice,
beautiful. Now you are coming to where I'm talking about.
So should we go back to
if we
redefine?
if we take our economy and make our economy strong and domesticate it, not foreign driven, it's our system driven, then our politics will begin to change perception. Because the capacity of anybody to think what they want to think is economic power. Your independence is relatively your economic power. If you are self-sufficient, relatively self-sufficient, you won't need me to come and assist you. You won't come and sing my praise. You simply say, yes, I know what I want. You get the picture now. So if we're economically stable, then the second is that one professor told us, he said he thinks that we should have what we call Afrocracy.
Our own style of government.
Yes. We should internalize it and make our own form of government.
Yeah, but
they
don't
call
you
him
think,
Professor B.I.C. Ijoma.
Yeah, Bashiru, I remember proud to, let's say during the pre-colonial era now,
Yes.
we had what you may call the Afrocracy. We had in the East a kind of a system of government whereby it was centrifugal. There was really no organized system of government. Everybody was an OB, everybody was the head in his house.
Republican. It was a Republican system.
All right, so in the West we also had their own system of government.
Yes,
Then in the South here
monarchical.
we had. In the North we had.
Monarchical.
Now the question I'm trying to ask is that, don't you think our own system of government, prior to the colonial masters coming in, it was ultra vires? In other words, it wasn't really basically organized to have some form of cohesion, for administrative purpose.
Are you aware that Britain was also a monarchical society?
Of course, that's what
No, are you aware?
Yeah, it was in that.
So what are we talking about? Are they as terrible as we are in our economic status? Of course, no. So the point I'm making is this, is that every country has its own peculiarity of evolution. No matter how a country with that country cannot be exact the same evolution trend. Evolution means that you follow the dynamics, change dynamics. So my own take is this, is that where we are now, the Africans should take up their economy. Let us do production instead of always buying. Let us produce what we consume. If we do that, we have stabilized our system. We can now initiate a reflection of our own government that will reflect our thought pattern.
Yeah.
At that time, there's kind of liberation, because the economic shackles that we are trapped now sometimes distort our thought pattern. Okay, just imagine that somebody just wake up from somewhere in overseas, the West or in Russia, and come to you and give you one beautiful story. And the next thing, you begin to go sheepishly without thinking straight of what you're supposed to do.
Because it's white.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's where I was coming from today when I said so.
Yeah.
That the color does not give him a monopoly of intellectual capacity.
Okay, I think we'll have to stop the program here today. I want to say a very big thank you to Bashiru Kadiri for finding time to come on the program today, African Discourse. We'll be looking at Russian influence, continuous influence in the continent of Africa, and of course the way forward. We've been able to suggest one or two things that we should look inward as a continent, and this what seems to be like you feel bad because you are a black person. It should be discouraged in every facet of our being together as Africans, and we can see how we can move forward. Then we also talked about the Wagner Group, which has been a deadly organization that Russia as you know, a government, as a country now has used to dominate parts of the world. They are in Africa. We looked at the major countries. We said that Wagner is in Central Africa Republic, is in Libya, Mali, Sudan, Mozambique, and of course Chad and Burkina Faso. Then we also said that sometime this year that the U.S. government actually had to warn that the Wagner Organization has remained a transnational criminal organization that nations of the world should be well. Even if some people will say that it is because it is not Western, that's why the U.S. government had to say so. But I think one thing stands clear, that Russia has continuously made incursions into Africa, and that is very, very worrisome. Well, we end the program here today. Thank you so much, Bashir, for finding time to come on the program.
Thank you so much.
All right, so my name is Evan Sunukuge. The program returns same time next week on this television, independent television. Goodbye and God bless you.